Hi everyone, I'm Lisa and welcome to my channel, The Southern Seamstress. I hope everyone's had a great week. Here in Arkansas, we've been having some really pretty spring-like days, although today is kind of rainy and gloomy. Besides doing some sewing, I've been trying to do some yard work, getting my garden spots ready to plant in a few weeks. Getting the weeds out and the old plants out. So it's been a good week, and it looks like next week we're going to have some warm weather, so I'm not sure if we're going to have any really more cold weather. I'm hoping we don't have any more frost because I'm really wanting to get some things planted. In today's video, I wanted to show you a vest pattern that I got completed this week. And I also wanted to show you my first attempt at using the Kam table press. The vest pattern that I made this last week is the Purl SoHo quilted vest. It's a free pattern, and it's one that I featured in a video back last fall that had 13 free patterns that I wanted to make this winter. And I think this is the second one that I've made of those 13. Because the first one was the forage bag that I made for several Christmas gifts. This vest pattern comes in sizes extra small to extra large. It doesn't really give bust or waist measurements, it just gives a total width because it's kind of the same width all the way down. And that width measurement is 40 inches to 54 inches. Although the pattern itself goes through all the steps of actually making the quilted fabric, I had purchased some pre-quilted fabric. And this fabric is from Guthrie & Ghani, and it's called their Mind the Maker Green Khaki Thelma Quilted Fabric. It's a polyester punji fabric, and it's just got straight lines running through it. Some of their quilted fabric has a different quilting patterns, but this one's just got the straight stitching lines. So this is a very simple vest pattern. It only has 2 pieces. Doesn't take long to tape the pieces together. So you've got your front piece and then you've got your back piece. So I pretty much made mine straight by the extra small. I did a couple of changes on the side here. It has a dip that goes up on the sides and then lower in the front and the back, and I just kind of widened the area of this dip. I had looked at some of my ready-made vests, and that's how their sides kind of look, so I just kind of copied that. I originally thought I would probably have to shorten the vest pattern because I'm only 5'2", but I put the pattern up to some of the vest I already had, and it was about the same length. And I like my vest a little bit on the longer side. So this is the full length of the extra small. So if you're more of a medium or tall person in height, you might, want to add a few inches to the length of this vest. Now, when I ordered the fabric, Guthrie & Ghani also had the matching bias tape. So I bought the bias tape, but in the pattern, it's having you make your bias tape out of the same fabric as the vest, but mine's already pre-done. It was a little bit, I think, wider, maybe 1/8 of an inch than the pattern called for. Of course, the pattern goes together very easily because there's just the shoulder seam and the side seam. The way the pattern's made, it only would have one exposed seam, and that's on the shoulders, and it has you bind that with some bias tape. If you're making the quilted fabric, you're going to put your front and back together on the outside, and then you're going to have lining pieces on the inside, and then you're going to sandwich your batting between it. So the side seams, if you make your quilted fabric, it's not going to have any exposed seams. But since mine was pre-made, I did have an exposed seam, so I wrapped that seam too with bias tape. Now, when I ordered the bias tape, I wasn't thinking that I was going to be binding this side seam, and since the pattern didn't really allow that much bias tape to do that, so I looked through my stash to see what fabric I might have that would go well with this type of fabric, because I didn't really want to use just plain cotton type of bias tape, although I guess I could have. So anyway, I ran across my stash. I had this kind of camouflage, and I think it's kind of the lining. Now, I've had this in my stash for a long time. I think I originally got it to make a lining of a baby bag that I made for my sister's little boy, and my sister's son just turned 20 years old. So I've had this for 20 years, and I've almost gotten rid of it a couple of times because I've never really needed it for anything. But when I was making this vest, I was really glad I still had it, because it really, it was almost the same type of fabric, and of course it really matched well. So on the inside, on the seams, I had the camo bias tape on this seam, on the side seams, and on the shoulder seams. So that worked out well, and I still have a bunch of this fabric. I'm not sure why I bought so much just to make one bag. Now, one thing I thought was odd on this pattern, when you put the bias tape on, they say to stitch it down to the inside of your vest and then fold it over in the pressed in over the seam and do a slip stitch, a hand slip stitch on the outside. I've never really done slip stitches that show on the outside. I think the only time I've used a slip stitch is like on the inside when I'm stitching something down. So I really didn't think that would turn out very well. So I just did it kind of more like a normal bias tape, where you stitched it the right sides together on the front, and then you fold it over. So then you've got the stitch seam here, and then I folded it over and did like the slip stitch here. Now, the only problem I had was this certain bias tape, when I would stitch it down, it would be nice and flat and smooth, but then it would start looking like it was twisting, but it's really not twisted. And I even took some out. I redid it, because if you press it out with your fingers, it'll be flat. But then it starts looking twisted, and I think that's because this fabric is really soft. It has hardly no body to it. Plus, it's a little bit, and it's very lightweight. It's a little bit wider than it was called for, and this is just a 1/4 of an inch seam. So there's really not much of a seam in here to pad this bias tape, and I think that's why it makes the outer edge kind of look like it's twisting or curling. I think the bias tape edging would do better if you were doing like a cotton type vest and you had like more of the cotton type bias tape. But anyway, that was pretty much the only problem that I had, and it did take me quite a while to hand stitch all this bias tape on the inside. Now, this pattern does not have a pocket option, but when I was looking at all my other vests that were hanging in my closet, they all had pockets. It's always nice to have a pocket to, put your phone in or your keys. Now, if I had thought about the pockets at the beginning before I started cutting it out and making it, I probably would have tried to put side seam pockets in it. But anyway, I didn't think about the pockets till afterwards. So I wanted to do a patch style pocket, but I didn't want to do just a regular patch style pocket. I wanted one that was a little easier, like if you wanted to slip your hands in. So what I started doing was looking through all my patterns to see what pocket style patterns I had on maybe some of the jacket or shirt type patterns. But I didn't see any of this type that has the slanted top. So I looked through Seamworks patterns, because I'm currently got a membership with Seamwork, and they had a jacket that had this slanted pocket, and it was their red, I think it's a jacket. So it's very simple pocket. Now, I forgot to mention that when I was cutting this out, I decided I didn't want the front and the back to both be horizontal. I wanted to give the front some interest, so I made the stitching lines go diagonal on the front of the jacket, and then the back of the jacket, they just go straight across. And that was really easy to do. I just laid out my fabric flat, one layer, and took the jacket front pattern and laid it diagonally. And I wanted my lines to go up towards the shoulder instead of this way. I wanted it to go this way. So I cut out one, and all I had to do to match up the other one exactly was I took this piece that I cut out and then I flipped it over on my fabric and lined up the stitching lines and cut that out. And so that made the stitching lines on the front two pieces match up correctly. So for the pocket, I decided I wanted the stitching lines to match up with these stitching lines. So all I did was I took my pattern piece and I laid it on the vest. So it would have been exactly this way. And then I placed it where I wanted it to be on the vest. And I used 3/8" seam lines on this. And then I just traced across where the lines were going to be, the stitching lines. And then I cut out my pocket with the lines matching. Then I just flipped that pocket over and did the other pocket. And then when I pinned the pocket, I just made sure the lines matched. Now these pockets are lined with that camo fabric. And so I just left a gap on the bottom and turned them wrong side out. And then just did a top stitch over here, and then I pinned it and did this. I thought that would be easier than trying to fold this quilted fabric in to itself. I could have folded this in and did the bias tape across this edge, but I thought this was a lot easier. Plus this extra lining fabric kind of gives the pocket a little more stability. So I'm happy with how that turned out. So that's the Purl SoHo vest, and I'll try it on to show you how long it looks on a 5'2" person. So here's how the jacket looks on me. So it's kind of a lower hip length. So this is the pattern in extra small without lengthening or shortening the pattern piece at all. I think the pockets turned out well. I can stick my hands in them, keep my hands warm. So this was the extra small, and I did a 1/2" seam on the shoulder and a 1/2" seam on the sides, and I wanted it so that it just kind of met, the two pieces met in the center, but it still has plenty of ease. This is kind of a thermal top, but I could put it over a little bit bulkier shirt and it would still fit okay. I really think this is a pretty color, and I think when I buy some t-shirt pattern next fall for some long sleeve t-shirts, I'm going to make sure that this color is in some of the designs so I can wear this vest with it. But it's really cozy and soft. I do like how the fabric feels. And I do have the same fabric in the rosewood that I'm hoping to make another vest out of, but it may have to wait till next fall. So that's the Purl SoHo quilted vest. So the other thing I wanted to share in this video was my first attempt at using the Kam table press. So this is the Kam table press, and with it you can install snaps, rivets, grommets, and it says buttons on the website. I'm not sure about the buttons. Now I decided to get this press after I saw a video from Christine, from her channel, Christine Sews a Lot. So if you want to get more details about the press and kind of how it works and what it does, I'm going to link her video down in my description below, because she does a good explanation of everything about the Kam Press. So about a month ago, I had done a review of French Navy's Portmanteau Shacket, and I had showed it, and it's this jacket right here. But when I did the video, I didn't have any closures on the front, and I was trying to decide between buttons and snaps. And my main concern was that this band right here is very thick, because I think the pattern doesn't have you trim this, and this fabric is fairly thick, and then it's also lined with the fabric, and then it has interfacing. So the button band or snap band along the front is very bulky, and it's not evenly the same thickness across from this left edge or this side over to maybe just a little bit over halfway is very thick. So you've got this third to maybe not quite half on this side that's only about half the thickness of this one. So I was really worried that if I did buttonholes that they might come out kind of wonky. you know, maybe not straight. They might look kind of worked looking. So then I watched Christine's video, and she was talking about how easy it was to use the press, and it worked really well in thick fabrics. And on French Navy's website, and I think on Instagram, there were several versions of this jacket that had snaps used on it, and I really liked the way they looked. So I went ahead and got the press and ordered some snaps. I think these are called the Fashion Spring snaps, and this is in gunmetal. And this is just how the front piece looks. Each snap has 4 pieces, one on the front here, one on the back, and then one here, and one on the back here. And then before you make them, you're going to mark where you want your snaps at, and I bought the little die that makes punches the little hole. Now, you can probably tell from here that my snaps are a little bit off center, especially these 2 lower ones. Now, I had marked my hole spot in the middle, and then when I made the hole, it looked like it was in the middle. But I think it was this thickness caused it to be just a little bit off center. And then when I put my snap in, that thickness, that uneven thickness, kind of pushed the snap a little bit to the right here, over this way. And I noticed it on this one too. Now, before I did this one, I did notice that the hole really looked off center, and it was probably going to look worse than this one. So I did redo the hole on this one and tried to get it centered back up, so I think it looks a little better. And then these are about the same. So they're all, I think, a little bit more on this side than perfectly centered. But still, besides that, they went in very easily. You don't have to put any pressure with this press. You know, you don't have to bear down, you don't have to hammer anything. So I really enjoyed using it, and I do plan to use it a lot in the future, probably mostly with snaps. And I want to be able to use it for the rivets, like if I'm making like a little choke bag or a pouch. Sometimes straps are attached, instead of sewing them down, they're attached with rivets, and I think that's really cute. These snaps come in different sizes. I think this is the 24, the larger one. But probably the 20 is a little bit smaller. It probably would have looked okay too, but I think this size is probably the best size for it. And I think that's about 1/2 inch there. So anyway, I didn't even try to put one up here because I'm not going to be snapping this up here. I think it turned out pretty well, and I like the gunmetal snaps with this black and red fabric. So that's my completed Portmanteau Shacket by French Navy. So that kind of finishes up what I was doing this week. I have also been working on my projects for my part 2 of my kitchen gift ideas, and I'm going to have that video out probably in about 2 weeks. I've only been really cutting stuff out and collecting the patterns, but I'm going to start sewing them this week. In my next video, I'm going to be sharing some really pretty fabrics that I recently got from Stone Mountain and Daughter Fabrics. And it's my first order from them, and I can tell you ahead of time that I'm really excited and pleased to buy their fabrics. I've got some really pretty prints and I think a couple of solids to share. So that will be in my next video. So I hope you enjoyed hearing about my new vest and about my experience with the Kam Press. If you did like the video, I would really appreciate for you to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button. And as always, I would love to hear any comments that you might have. Let me know what you've been up to, if you've made this vest before, if you have a Kam Press and you've used it and what you like or don't like about it. I always look forward to your comments. And until I see you in the next video, take care and happy sewing.